Oregon was an early adopter of legal marijuana.
We had one of the first medical programs in the country, and then in 2016 we rolled out adult use across the state, and have been growing ever since.
But high expectations met market realities.
We probably get about a C- for the business climate.
This week, a look at the promise of pot that went up in smoke.
And the worst part or the most challenging part?
Trying to make a profit.
There is a lot of buzz about the early efforts to cut huge amounts of government waste.
We're excited about the slash and burn approach that they're taking at an agency like HHS that has a nearly $2 trillion budget.
We talk with 3 experts who cover a broad span of wasteful spending.
Is there one simple thing that could be done to cut down on those massive expenses?
My purpose is to provide companionship.
Robotics are becoming a little too real, and so are AI images.
Last year, we really started to see reports coming into our cyber tip line regarding generative AI images that were being used to exploit children.
This week, the dark side of our artificial creations.
Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. America is smack dab in the middle of a major drug, business, and legal experiment. Odds are you live in a state where recreational marijuana has become legal in the past few years or is the target of an intense lobbying effort to make it so. Yet possessing or selling marijuana technically remains a crime everywhere under federal law, punishable by prison time and fines. Today, we take measure of a movement that's not quite like any that's ever happened before in the U.S.
It's the nursery.
Myron Chatowitz started Essential Farms, a small organic marijuana farming operation, in 2015 in rural Eugene, Oregon, 2 hours south of Portland.
How many people did you have at your peak?
22 people. We were doing $1 million in sales. We were doing great. Were we making money? No, but we were seeing there's an avenue ahead. The big picture for us.
But his dreams of the high life went up in smoke in March of 2023 when Oregon started requiring growers to test pot for a certain type of mold. It put him out of business before the state decided a few months later that the tests weren't necessary after all.
The law's gone. But here we are, laid off everyone. It's just me and Shane. What's going to stop the state or federal throwing another regulation out of the blue that we're going to have to adapt to, that maybe we won't be able to? And it's like, can I do this any longer? And as a businessman, I said, I'll take the loss. I'm done.
His is one of countless hard luck stories that can be found among dreamers who once saw legal marijuana as America's new green rush. 24 states and Washington, D.C. have now legalized recreational marijuana. Even more states, 39 plus D.C., allow medical use.
Pot has been legal for recreational use here in Oregon longer than most any place else. The story of how it's working out almost 10 years in is complicated and depends on who you ask.
One of the things that I think Nectar's done consistently well.
Mike Getland helped start up the Cannabis Industry Alliance of Oregon and now does PR for Nectar Markets, the largest recreational cannabis dispensary chain in Oregon. The expert joint rolling team rolls about 5 million doobies a year.
So what's the history of legalized marijuana in Oregon?
We had one of the first medical programs in the country, and then in 2016 we rolled out adult use across the state, and have been growing ever since.
If you had to give the whole effort statewide a grade in terms of success, whatever that means, what would you say it is at this point?
I think we get an A for the amount of legal market adoption. The number of Oregonians that choose to get their cannabis products from legal sources is probably the highest in the country. We definitely get an A+ for the best products around. And I think we get an A for minimizing any public health or safety harms. we probably get about a C- for the business climate and the ability of the regulatory infrastructure to modernize and adapt.
And then we'd invite you inside.
Wherever we've gone at Full Measure to report on legalized marijuana, we've found a decidedly mixed bag. The promise was less crime, more tax revenue and business opportunities, and no black market. Yet the black market has thrived in states that legalize pot, and foreign cartels have expanded their territory. On our 2020 visit to California, it was estimated 75% there were still buying pot illegally. Part of the reason, high taxes drive up the price of legal weed.
If you're a cultivator, you pay a tax. When you're a manufacturer, you pay a tax. And then once it gets to a distributor, you pay a tax. Then once it gets to the retailer pays a tax. Then the state takes its excise tax, which is based on gross receipts. Then you have like individual gross receipts tax at the city level.
When we reported from Colorado in 2018, there had been a spike in crime and pot houses devaluing neighborhoods.
They had cut down all the drywall in the basement. They had taken all the carpet out, essentially destroying the basement. So you look at a house like this, it's over $500,000, and it's virtually being destroyed. Now it turns into the black market. They ship it out of state, and other states are paying large amount of money for this marijuana. So everything that we were kind of told in regards to legalization, that we would get rid of the black market, law enforcement wouldn't be involved in, it just hasn't panned out.
Measures to legalize pot failed last November in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Florida. A big hurdle everywhere is the confusing legal landscape. Under federal law, marijuana is an illegal drug in the same category as heroin and LSD. Starting under President Obama, a decision was made not to enforce the law in states that legalize pot. President Trump tried to reverse that in his first term. President Biden went back to looking the other way.
The department's view on marijuana use is that enforcement against use is not a good use of our resources.
Repackaging the joints that we had rolled from.
But business owners told us they're still hampered by federal rules that keep them out of most banks and deny them federal tax deductions, even as the IRS is more than happy to collect income taxes from them.
So yeah, the federal government has done nothing and has chosen to simply look the other way and not enforce its laws.
But that means you can't use the banking system, right?
Correct.
And your business expenses are not tax deductible.
Correct.
What do you think needs to happen in your view?
I think that state level and federal regulators need to start looking at this like the business that it is, like a significant contributor to our economy, and start to do the same balancing work between consumer protection and creating a stable business environment that they do in every other industry.
It's not that there isn't a huge appetite. A creative array of products offered by the knowledgeable bud tenders at the local dispensary have tendered a collective $20 billion plus in revenue so far.
Thank you very much.
And the worst part or the most challenging part?
Trying to make a profit. As someone who's worked in the trade association world in Oregon for many years, I would say 90+% of my friends' businesses have failed. My farm failed that I originally started, and I was fortunate enough to be able to continue my work in the industry through Nectar and through the trade associations. But the business failure rate and the type of economic damage that it has done to many of my friends and colleagues has been really tough to watch.
My cousin, this is what he does. We said, let's go down to a one-person operation. We reduced our license down to the second smallest you could get. And he's, scraping by, doing what he loves. And it's just me and Shane, just me and my cousin. And we're the only ones left.
Oh, yeah.
Interestingly, multiple tobacco companies have begun to invest in cannabis companies and are supporting groups lobbying for legalized pot. For more on this and other Full Measure stories, check out my podcast, Full Measure After Hours.